3.3 was meant to be a story about Scaramouche, and while we did get that, you also got a ton of lore and tons of theory fodder regarding Irminsul and the nature of the world itself, as well as a potential hint of future developments. Let's go over the main talking points. Number 1. Nahida's loophole for retaining information post-Irminsul tampering confirms the theory that books like The Pale Princess are reliable sources of information because said information is told in an abstract way. It's possible the author of Before Sun and Moon kept their knowledge in a similar way and wrote it out in a plain form for others. This also means the traveller is on a time limit regarding Nahida learning about Rukkhadevata. She wrote a fairy tale about Scaramouche just in case, so I'm sure she's written stories about how much she missed her predecessor, and this quest may have made her want to look back on her other stories also just in case. And the voice at the end. During her monologue, my mind went through 3 possibilities, in order that it was Irminsul itself, it was Istaroth, or the Hydro Archon. Number 1. Irminsul. Nahida thinks we talked to an embodiment of it in 3.2, and Irminsul would likely remember that it was tampered with, even if it didn't show that to anyone interfacing with it. The example the voice gives of different events leading to the same outcome would make sense from someone who's seen time being messed with before. Also, an incorporeal entity would be a good choice for someone who can speak out of thin air without even Nahida's excuse of being part of a massive dream in the 2.8 event story. Number 3. The Hydro Archon. The voice talks a lot about truth, lies, and judging things, which fits perfectly with the god of justice, who apparently loves presiding over all court cases in her country. If she's immune to Irminsul though, that may mean she's a descender who somehow became an Archon. Maybe she was close to the original Hydro Archon and found a way to become a god through them, or because they were close to them. Number 2. Istaroth. Similar to Irminsul, a god of time would absolutely know if someone tried to mess with time and how things turn out when that happens, namely that things will still happen the same way. Her having gone missing may also justify her appearing as a disembodied voice to the traveller, if all that happened was her losing her physical form as a result of someone trying to erase her or something. Who knows? We know the Dendro Archon is the embodiment of Irminsul, but so much of the case for Irminsul being the speaker matches Istaroth being the speaker that maybe those two are also connected in some way. Speaking of Irminsul, and this goes hand in hand with my theory for 3.2, Irminsul looked like a cybernetic tree, again screams that Tevat is just a supercomputer, especially with Nahida and Scaramouche treating it like a server they're trying to mine for relevant data. We saw how time travel looks in a second story quest, and if what Scaramouche pulled in this quest is indeed the equivalent of time travel, it means that even something as abstract as time travel is also simply messing with data, and again that just seems like something you'd do if your world was built on a simulation. And finally, the collected miscellany for Wanderer. If you don't know, Alice narrates it. Alice has only narrated Dory's collected miscellany because they work together, and Aloy's miscellany because she came from another world, instead of Dainsleif, who voices everyone else's except for Deluxe in Japan. But this makes sense if you consider that Dainsleif is a part of Tevat and thus would have forgotten everything about Scaramouche. But if Alice didn't have her memory removed, it means she must also be a descender, or at least what the Fatui call a descender. It's likely that she originated from Tevat, left Tevat when the Sustainer and or the Heavenly Principles took over, and when she came back was treated as an outsider to the current Tevat, much like the Traveller, since there are also theories the Traveller also originated from the original Tevat civilization. In fact, if you believe the heiress from Enkanomiya is Alice, maybe she wrote Before Sun and Moon, or even Pale Princess, or any of the other stories that seem to be important to the history of Tevat. I mean, even in her modern day incarnation, she writes travelogues as if they were stories, so there is precedent for this. Alice also mentions having a special job, and I wonder if that isn't to travel the world, which she's currently doing, and document evidence of otherworlders or anything foreign. She implies Aloy's presence means she's going to be getting busy, and she knows about other worlds after all. She's probably not a secret member of the Fatui or anything, but maybe she's doing for the Hexen Circle or some other faction. Thank you all for listening. This is just my quick breakdown of the 3.3 quest. Again, there was a ton of stuff here, and I really want to get this off my chest, so thank you for your time. Please let me know what you thought in the comments, subscribe if you want more like this, and as always, have a great day.